Our next caller is from Nebraska. Her name's Karen. Let's get her on the show.
Hi, Dave. First time caller, long time listener. I love your show. So let me tell you a little bit about me before I ask my question. I'm a full-time scooper at Baskin Robbins, and I'm a part-time fun haver, okay? You'll never guess what my degree is. It's actually a bachelor's in recreational and leisure studies. So,
See, are you the head of the household?
I just bought a new Subaru for $38,000 and I make $8.25 an hour. Now my husband and I want to get married, so I told him that he has to get a job and stop playing, I think it's called League of Legends.
All right, well, Karen, I got some advice for you here. Now, it's not too complicated. You can find all this in my Financial Peace University, which we can connect you with as a token of my generosity for calling today. But I'm going to tell you what you need to do, Karen. You're going to need to stop spending so much money. And you're going to be living off of two things, okay? I got them right here in front of me. It's a premium edition, brand new. We're including this in part of my Financial Peace University program. And we have Dave's premium beans and Dave's rice. Now, if you put these two together, these are a debt crusher because they cost nothing. If you follow my Financial Peace University plan, you too will be out of debt and on your way to freedom.
So I know I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this video because I know a lot of you guys out there actually like Dave Ramsey and like what he has to say. Dave Ramsey gives outdated advice and incomplete advice, in my opinion. Let me give you a bit of a backstory on Dave Ramsey. After doing a little bit of research, Dave didn't make his fortune through following his own advice. He made it through selling his advice to mass amounts of people. He is do as I say, not as I do. At least that's how he got his fortune for the second time. And I say the second time because he was a real estate investor before, got a bunch of loans he was unqualified for, and then lost all those loans and had to declare bankruptcy. And then he started helping people rebuild their finances after he defeated bankruptcy or bounced back from it. And then he got on a radio show and wrote his first book and then leveraged his radio show to make his fortune again by selling his book, not by doing what he's telling you to do. And that's like a major problem that I have. So first off, Dave Ramsey grew up with a silver spoon, and now you'll read all about him that like he was instilled with a work ethic and work really hard and blah blah blah, but what you don't know is that he grew up with parents that were in real estate. And now that's a really hard thing to get into, and it has a lot of proprietary knowledge, and if you're born into a family that does that, you're pretty lucky. He has a quote in his book that says, "My parents were in the real estate business, so it's always been a big part of my life." After he graduated from college with a degree in business, he went and became a real estate agent. And he started to flip properties, and he admits this himself. He went to go get loans for his real estate business. He had his family pull strings to get the loans for his real estate business. He's kind of vague about it. He just says, a few family connections at local banks, Ramsey was able to secure financing for his deals. And now this is in the video. You can hear him say it.
I started buying and selling real estate in my very early 20s, just a couple of years after getting married. And it worked. A little bit of family connection with some bankers and stuff that knew me and trusted me. I don't know why. I was 22 years old, 23 years old.
He said, I don't know why they gave me money.
I don't know why. I was 22 years old.
You leveraged family connections, and then they gave you the money. So he used that money to invest into real estate by doing 90-day loans. Not 5-year loans, not 15-year loans, not 30-year loans. He did 90-day loans with way more money than he could ever pay back if someone called his loans. So after that, the bank that he used his family connections for got bought out by another bank. And that bank called him out on it. They said, there's this kid that somehow has been given all this money. I don't know how he was qualified for it. Basically calling out his family connections and saying, you know what, you got to give us all that money back.
Kid, 26 years old here, owes us $1,200,000. This is ridiculous. Let's limit this relationship, which is banker talk, for call his notes and screw up his life.
So he's all upset. He's playing the victim here. He's like, let's call his notes and screw up his life. No, Dave, they weren't calling your notes to screw up your life. They were calling your notes because you're a 26-year-old kid that got a bunch of loans using family connections, not because you earned them, not because you were qualified for them. Nepotism. You had people pull strings so that you could get that money, and you got called out when the banks figured that out. And then you get all upset and you can't pay that money back because you didn't invest the money in a better way than 90-day loans. There's no way you could pay that back. That was just bad. That was bad investment. He didn't know that, and he couldn't pay all that money back, and he had to declare bankruptcy. Okay, so after that, Dave met some dude and he helped him and his wife create a financial plan for their life, and then they started this consultancy called the Lampo Group, and then they started co-hosting a radio show called The Money Game, and then he published his first book called Financial Peace, and then used his radio audience to help sell it. All right, let's talk about Dave's mentality here. So first of all, one of Dave's big enemies is debt, and he basically says all debt is bad debt, and I'm going to tell you why rich people don't do that. Not all debt is bad debt. There is good debt and there is bad debt, especially with things like real estate or things that generate cash flow like other businesses. Let's talk about a credit card, for example. So on a credit card, if you're racking up a bunch of debt on a credit card and you're not paying off the balance every single month, credit cards have a huge amount of interest. Yeah, that's pretty bad debt. But if you're smart and you have a credit card that has a decent kind of reward system on it, like airline miles or cash back for certain websites that you shop on, and then you pay off the balance every month so there's no interest accruing on it, that is good debt because you are getting rewards, free rewards for that. And that's the only reason that credit card companies offer this is because most people don't do that. But that doesn't mean that it's bad. That just, again, this is people that just can't control their spending. Let's talk about like a mortgage. A mortgage is not bad debt. A mortgage is something that you can leverage. A mortgage would be called an asset to wealthy people. A mortgage has like the triple whammy. You get asset appreciation, assuming you're not like in a place where the housing prices go down or you're in some sort of housing bubble, but like overall, housing prices usually go up. So you buy a house, the price of that house or the worth of that house is gonna go up. You also generate cash flow on that house by renting it out. Also, you generate equity in that house because as part of that cash flow, people are paying down your mortgage. So the house is increasing in value, what you owe is going down, and then you have cash flow every month that you kind of scrape off a little bit of profit off the top. This is what rich people do. They buy assets and take out debt and leverage cash flow on that, and then live off the cash flow. And then if they want to buy some fancy toy, they sell off one of their real estates and then they pay the tax on it. Let's talk about an example of bad debt. A car loan is bad debt. That is an asset that does not appreciate in value. It doesn't really generate cash flow unless you're renting it out. But for the most part, if you buy a car and you take a loan for it, as soon as you drive it off the lot, that is depreciating in value. It's never going to be worth what you paid for it. Let's talk about another example of really bad debt. Student loans. Student loans are the worst kind of debt. Not only you don't get an actual physical asset out of student loans, you might get one, you might get a degree, you might get a piece of paper, but there's no guarantee. You could take out limitless, almost limitless student loans and not even get anything from it. Like, it totally depends on your ability and what your degree is and if there's a market for your degree and how you can sell yourself. And now here's another thing. Student loans are not forgiven with bankruptcy. You could have $10 million in mortgage debt and declare bankruptcy and say, I can't pay it back, I'm just declaring bankruptcy, and $300,000 of student loans and be like, I can't pay it back, I'm declaring bankruptcy. They'll forgive your $10 million of mortgage, but they're not going to forgive your student loans. There's no way to get your student loans forgiven other than like a few different programs, like working in a public sector for 20 years and they'll forgive whatever you owe after you do your 20 years of service. Student loans are terrible. That is bad debt. Here's an example of good debt. You can purchase a business. If you own a business and you purchase a business, that's a tax write-off, number one. And then if that business is currently generating cash flow, you now get that cash flow because you bought the business. Now, let's say you take out a loan to buy that business. You take out a $100,000 loan to buy a business that's generating $15,000 a month. Well, now that's good debt, and assuming you can maintain that cash flow or even increase that cash flow, you can again have an asset that could appreciate in value. So you buy a website or a company for $100,000 that's generating $15,000 a month. That's a tax write-off. You're generating cash flow off of a tax write-off. Just think about that. This is stuff that Dave doesn't talk about. But you're generating cash flow off of a tax write-off asset. And if you can increase that cash flow or just hold on to it, that usually will increase in value. You paid $100,000 for it. If you could just maintain that or increase it a little bit or market it differently, you could sell it for more. You could buy that and sell it for $150,000 in a year. That is how you do things. That is how you leverage debt. You use debt as a tax write-off to generate cash flow, and you do this by buying businesses and by buying real estate. And this is what all the rich people in the world do. You see, Dave's audience, I guess, they're just like, I don't know if they want to own their own business. There's a few callers that call in and say, I want to be an entrepreneur, but he doesn't ever talk about this. The only thing Dave ever really talks about is how to spend less money. Dave doesn't talk about how to make more money. Dave doesn't talk about how to leverage the skills that you have to make a product or solve a problem or improve a service, or how to sell what you know and add value to the market. Dave only says you have a fixed income, you need to spend less money of your fixed income so you can pay off your debt. Or if you want to make more, you get another fixed income part-time job and spend that to pay off your debt. He doesn't talk about, okay, let's figure out what you know, let's figure out what your skills are right now. Let's see if there's anything in the market that you can do with those skills independent of a job that you can scale basically limitlessly according to your ability. Ideally, if you have debt that you want to pay off, you should do both. You should spend less money and pay off your debt with that savings, and then you should also make more money and use that money to pay off your debt. But Dave doesn't talk about that. He just talks about how to live like no one else so that you can live like no one else later. You know how to live like no one else, Dave? Is you open a business and you business expense things that generate cash flow, because that's how you retire. Let's talk about how Dave wants you to retire. Dave says you need to put all your money in investments and just let that compound interest add up. Dave says once you start early and you just trust in the market will always go up, and then you'll be able to retire. And here's the problem with Dave's retirement solution. Dave says you need to have X amount of dollars in your bank account by the time you retire. If you're doing the lump sum retirement method, you are saying, I have $600,000, $1 million, $2 million in my bank account, and I'm 65 years old. I'm just hoping that I expire before my money does. And hopefully there's enough left so that I can pass it down to my family. To be honest, retirement is not that. You don't need a lump sum of money to retire. You need cash flow to retire. All you need to retire, if you have bills that are $5,000 a month, let's say you need cash flow of $6,000 a month. You get a nice little $1,000 a month buffer there. Now, boom, you're retired. You don't need to save and save and save and save through the market. You just need cash flow to pay your bills. And he doesn't talk about how to generate cash flow to pay your bills. He just talks about how to save money and pay off all your debt and only buy cash. And that's not how you do things. That is not how the wealthy people do things. They buy assets that generate cash flow, they use that to live, and that's how they retire early. They don't just keep working and spending less and putting it into the market and just hoping that the market brings them to $1 million. Here's the thing with investing in the market. Money compounds. So it's an exponential curve. It starts doubling and doubling and doubling and doubling. So ideally, the last year or two of whenever you're invested into the market would be the most profitable. And then you retire and you take some of that money, and now you finally have access to all that money tax-free. Well, I hope you didn't try to retire like last month, because over the course of like 3 or 4 days, 2 years of stock market gains were erased. So those last 2 years of somebody's retiring right now, those were the biggest gains they had, because that's how compound interest works. Those would have been the most exponential gains before they retired. Those are erased. You better just hope that the market's in a good spot when you want to retire, or you better have a backup plan, or you could just buy assets that generate cash flow. Dave also doesn't talk about how to leverage a business basically at all. He doesn't talk about the benefits of business expenses. You have what's called a lifestyle business. And with a lifestyle business, you basically get to write off doing things that you love. And that is winning. Everyone thinks that you have to do a job that you don't like, and that's real work. Real work is tolerating a job for 40 years until you get to 65, and then you can do what you want. And that's just not how it works at all. If you have a lifestyle business and you can figure out a way to monetize it, you get to write off things that you love to do. For example, let's say if you really love tech and keyboards and computer stuff like Linus Tech Tips, and that's what you're passionate about, and that's what you would do for fun anyways, and you figure out a way to make money doing that, now you get to write off things that you enjoy doing. That is a lifestyle business. He doesn't ever talk about that. Why doesn't he talk about that? Let's take a look at Dave's baby steps to getting out of debt for good and to build wealth. Baby step number 1, save $1,000 for your starter emergency fund. And here we go again. He just says, save $1,000. He doesn't say make $1,000 and put it away. It's always spend less money and save $1,000, because he only addresses people on fixed incomes. He doesn't tell you that, you know what, there's other options out there. If you hustle and you build a product and you build a service and you solve a problem or improve a service or just give value to the market where there's a need for it, you can generate money that's not fixed. But he doesn't tell you that. He just says spend less money. So save $1,000 is baby step 1. Baby step 2, pay off all debt except the house using the debt snowball. So you just attack the biggest debt first and pay it off as quickly as possible and throw all your extra money at it until it's gone, because that gives you a feeling of accomplishment. It's all about feelings and whatever, I don't know, but paying off all your debt. Again, so if you were to leverage assets, good debt, real estate, or something that appreciates in value, you wouldn't want to pay off all your debt. You would want to have someone else pay off all your debt and generate equity on that. But again, he doesn't talk about that here either. Baby step number 3, 3 to 6 months of expenses in a fully funded emergency fund. Baby step 4, invest 15% of your household income into retirement. And again, he just says invest it into Roth IRAs and put it in your 401k and get the biggest company match and just live on rice and beans until you're 65 or 45 or whatever, until you have enough money so where basically you die before your money runs out and you can give some left over to your kids. And that is terrible. You should talk about cash flow, Dave. You don't talk about cash flow. Baby step number 5, save for your children's college fund. So here's a big issue that I have with Dave. In some of his videos, he's like, you shouldn't go get $200,000 in debt for a degree that doesn't matter. Well, that's probably the only thing I agree with. But Dave he laughs at people. He doesn't help them. He laughs at people that do this. Here's a video clip of Dave laughing at someone that got $200,000 in debt because they got a journalism degree.
I mean, this chick who goes and gets $200,000 for her undergraduate and goes and gets a $28,000 job. I mean, somewhere along the line, you never got a clue, kiddo.
Here he says, if you were to just stop and freaking think.
Maybe if you're going to study something, you ought to stop and freaking think about what it's going to pay when you get out of school.
But then he says it's actually your parents' fault because they didn't raise you right.
See, what we have here is really not an education problem, really not a cost of college problem. What we have here is a parenting problem. Some of you people are raising twits, and then you turn them loose on the culture and act like college ruined them. No, they were ruined long before they got to college. College just exposed that they were twits.
So I don't know if you caught like his first words there, but he's like, we don't have a college problem. We don't have a cost of college problem. And I'd be the first ones to disagree with you there, Dave. There is a cost of college problem, okay? I know back in your day when you were walking 6 miles through the snow when it was minus 68 degrees outside and you were working full-time, you could pay for college and go full-time. Yeah, I get it, dude. I get it. You were a boomer and back then it was affordable and you could work a regular job and still pay for college. Right now, that's not really possible. Here is another clip of Dave basically saying college makes you smart, and he forced all his kids to go to college, and he said that if they didn't go get a degree, he was going to shoot them. Here, let me just play. I know it doesn't sound, I know it's like sarcasm, but like, why would you say that?
Listen, I'm all about education. All 3 of my kids went to school. I told them we were going to have them shot if they didn't. So they all 4 got 4-year degrees. Okay, I mean, we believe in education around the Ramseys. Being dumb is really not a good idea. I mean, learning stuff is a smart thing.
Learning stuff is a smart thing. I told all his kids we were going to have them shot if they didn't go to college.
All 3 of my kids went to school. I told them we were going to have them shot if they didn't.
Here's the thing, Dave. College doesn't make you smart. I know a lot of people with big degrees, and they aren't smart. They just were good at passing tests. Because you have a degree doesn't mean you're any smarter than anyone else. That's not how it works. So, you know what I did? I did some research on his kids. And so he's got one kid named Rachel Cruz, and she has a bachelor's degree in communication. I feel like that's pretty laughable. A degree in communication is kind of a meme. And then you're like, oh, well, what is she doing for a living? Well, she works for Daddy. She works as part of like the Ramsey Foundation or whatever, right? So she doesn't even need her degree because she was born into a silver spoon. Now she can just work for Daddy. He also has a kid named Daniel Ramsey, and so I looked up what he was getting a degree in, and that would be a bachelor's in business management. And so here's the thing with a bachelor's in business. It doesn't give you a business to run. It doesn't give you a product to sell. It doesn't give you a service to improve. Bachelor's in business or even an MBA, they're all useless. There's nothing that you can get in these programs other than a network that you can't find online in like 10 minutes. So where do you think he works? Well, Daniel Ramsey works for Daddy too. He is the SVP of something, and here's his LinkedIn page. He's the SVP of Ramsey Solutions, a Dave Ramsey company. So basically he made all his kids go to college to get degrees because that was gonna make them smart, and then basically all his kids work for him anyways, so all of his kids were born into a silver spoon. And why even make them go to college, dude? You know that a business management with a GPA of 3.78 doesn't mean anything. And you know that's where Dave went too, you know? He went there, and you know, I'm just saying, he might have a little pull at that school, you know? He might have some connections. Again, I think that Dave Ramsey just doesn't talk about certain things because I don't want to sound mean, but I just don't think his audience would understand it. So he just gives them the super simple bite-sized information, which all really boils down to stop spending more money than you make and put it into the market. And that's it. And he'll sell you that for $129, or if you're lucky enough to get into the caller show, he'll give it to you for free, maybe. It's $129 to learn, cut up your credit cards, stop spending more money than you make, save money, and put money into the market and hope that the market's in a good spot when you retire. Boom, I just saved you $129. Anyways, that was my rant on Dave Ramsey and why I think that he's a boomer meme and all of his knowledge is just, in my opinion, if you want good advice on how to make money, leverage assets, do real estate, generate cash flow, all right, go read the book Unscripted by MJ DeMarco, go read The Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco, go watch a channel called Meet Kevin, and then go watch Graham Stephan. That will give you some actual tangible stuff. If you like this video, hit thumbs up, leave a comment, let me know what you think. I know I'm probably gonna get some hate for it. And then subscribe if you haven't, and thanks for listening to my rant. Anyways, if you want to support the channel, there's some links down there in the description. I'll be talking more about business if you guys like this. And that's it. That's all I have to say. If you want more of a one-on-one consultation of how this works, there's a link for that down there too. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Man, I gotta get into character here. Better than I deserve. Better than I deserve. How are you today, Karen? You're gonna be living in a cardboard box. And you're gonna be living off of a couple staples we have on this Dave Ramsey show. I got them right here for you. You can purchase them, part of the Financial Peace University plan. And this is $9.99, by the way. This is another $9.99. We got Karen here from Nebraska. She's calling in about her student loans. I'm good, Karen. How are you? Better than I deserve. Better than I deserve. Better than I deserve. I'm better than I deserve.
This is just some behind the scenes footage right now. Look at this Dave Ramsey. I left this on for this video. This is disgusting. This is my Dave Ramsey right here. Oh yeah. There's beans and rice all around my mouth right here. Oh yeah. This is how we do things around the house. I just look at my wife and just wiggle my lips and she's ready to go. Dave. She says, Dave. And motions me over. The next thing you know, we're getting biblical.
Hi Dave, I love your show. First time caller, long time listener. Let me do it again. Hi Dave, first time caller, long time listener. I love your show. Hi Dave, first time caller, long time listener. I love your show. So let me tell you a little bit about me before I ask my question. So I told him that he has to get a job and stop playing, I think it's called League of Legends. Told me that once he goes big, he's gonna go pro in the esports and then we'll have more money. He told me that he recently maxed out his credit card on something called skins in the game, costumes, something like that. I was just, okay, what do you have to say, Dave?
Better than I deserve.